The professionalism that Mary's experienced I immediately recognized. These were professionals, not rent-a-cops or local police. The positioning, the communication patterns, the way they scanned the perimeter, it all spoke of federal training and serious purpose. "Security's pretty tight," Chin observed, approaching Mary's position with the casual air of someone seeking conversation. "The senator must be someone pretty important." Mary continued her work, cleaning her pruning shears with methodical care. "Security is always important," she replied in her measured tone, "especially for high-profile targets." "Targets?" Chin's eyebrows rose with curiosity. "You sound like you're using military terminology." A ghost of a smile crossed Mary's weathered features. "I watch a lot of movies on television." But the smile never reached her eyes, and Chin caught this subtle evasion in her response. Several hours later, raised voices from the lobby area drew Mary's attention away from her work. Senator Richards appeared to be engaged in a heated discussion with the retirement center's administrative staff, his voice carrying the sharp edge of someone unaccustomed to being denied. "This is completely unacceptable." Richards' voice boomed through the building's corridors. "Security protocols have been compromised." Mary shifted her position to gain a better view of the situation unfolding inside. The observational skills she'd honed over decades of service kicked into high gear automatically. The senator's body language, the reactions of the security personnel, the general atmosphere within the building. Everything painted a picture of a situation spiraling beyond normal parameters. "I wonder what happened," Chin murmured, joining Mary at her new vantage point. "I don't know," Mary replied, her voice carrying a note of professional concern. "But we'll find out soon enough." As evening settled over the retirement center, Mary retreated to her small ground-floor apartment. The space was spartanly furnished but meticulously organized, every item in its designated place. The television droned quietly in the background, evening news anchors reporting on Senator Richards' visit with carefully neutral language. There had been security concerns during the senator's inspection, but details remained deliberately vague. From an old military footlocker hidden beneath her bed, Mary retrieved a compact radio that hadn't seen use in months. Old habits died hard, and she found herself scanning frequencies she'd memorized years ago. Through the static, she began to pick up fragments of communication from the security forces still active in the area. "Red Eagle is secure." A voice crackled through the interference. "Target has been relocated from the incident site." Mary's heart rate quickened involuntarily. Red Eagle. That was a designation reserved for high-clearance officials in active danger scenarios. Something had gone seriously wrong during what should have been a routine inspection visit. The next morning brought its usual routine, but Mary's trained instincts were now fully alert. Before beginning her gardening duties, she conducted what appeared to be a casual survey of the retirement center's perimeter. Her experienced eye immediately cataloged several details that hadn't been present the night before. Near the main entrance, fresh tire tracks scarred the otherwise pristine asphalt, the kind of marks left by vehicles braking hard or accelerating rapidly. The glass doors of the lobby showed hairline cracks that spoke of sudden pressure changes, possibly from doors being forced or slammed. Most telling of all, the positioning of the remaining security personnel suggested they were maintaining a defensive perimeter rather than conducting routine protection duties. "Good morning, Mary," Wilson called out, approaching with hurried steps that betrayed his underlying anxiety. "You're here early today." "I'm always here early, sir," Mary replied, her tone neutral but observant. "Did something happen last night?" Wilson hesitated, clearly debating how much to reveal. "Why do you ask?" "The glass doors show impact damage." The tire tracks in the parking area aren't consistent with normal traffic patterns. Wilson stared at Mary with barely concealed amazement. Her casual observation had identified details that had escaped his own notice entirely. Just a minor security issue. Nothing to worry about. But Mary could read the tension in Wilson's voice, the way his eyes darted nervously toward the building's entrance. 30 years of reading people under pressure had taught her to recognize when someone was working very hard to appear calm. During lunch break, Mary sat alone in the staff cafeteria, mechanically eating her sandwich while her mind processed the morning's observations. Chin approached and took the seat across from her, clearly working up the courage to ask something that had been bothering her. "Mary, I want to ask you something," Chin began, her voice dropping to a more confidential tone. "Are you just a gardener?" Mary set down her utensils carefully, meeting Chin's gaze directly. "What do you mean? Last night, during the senator's visit, I watched you. The way you observed the security protocols, how you analyze the environment, that's not ordinary gardener knowledge." Mary studied the young woman for a long moment, weighing her response. Chin's expression showed genuine curiosity rather than suspicion, but old habits of operational security died hard. "Sometimes life takes you to different places," Mary said finally. "I've done different kinds of work in the past." "What kind of work?" "Work that involved protecting people." Chun leaned forward, her interest clearly piqued. "Security work? Police?" Mary's smile was enigmatic. "Something like that." That evening, Mary once again activated her radio, this time with more focused purpose. The communications she intercepted painted a clearer picture of an ongoing situation. There was indeed a credible threat against Senator Richards, one that extended beyond the previous day's incident. "Target remains at risk," a voice reported through the static. "Expand the security perimeter." Mary opened a drawer that contained detailed maps of the Riverside area. Maps that showed not just streets and buildings, but security vulnerabilities, escape routes, and tactical advantages. Even in retirement, she had maintained her professional habits of preparation and analysis. The following morning brought visible changes to the retirement center security posture. The number of personnel had increased significantly. In Mary's experience, I immediately identified several individuals attempting to blend in as visitors or maintenance workers. Their positioning and behavior patterns screamed federal protection detail. "Security's been increased," Chun observed, joining Mary near the rose garden. "Yes," Mary agreed, "but not effectively." "What do you mean?" Mary gestured discreetly toward various positions around the grounds. "That man reading the newspaper on the bench. He's been on the same page for 3 hours. The woman watering the flowers keeps checking the main entrance. They're professionals, but what? But they're deployed defensively. Real threats don't always come from the expected directions." Chun stared at Mary with growing amazement. "How do you know all this?" Mary cleaned her pruning shears with characteristic care. "Experience." Mary's concerns proved prophetic that afternoon. An unfamiliar van had taken position near the service entrance at the rear of the building, its occupant conducting what appeared to be systematic surveillance of the facility's back areas. The vehicle's positioning was all wrong for legitimate business. Too far from the loading dock, too close to the emergency exits. Mary found Chin immediately. "Get Wilson. Now," she said with sudden urgency. "Why?" "The van in the back. Security threat." Chun hesitated, clearly torn between Mary's obvious concern and the seeming normalcy of a parked vehicle. "Are you sure? Maybe it's just a delivery." "No," Mary said with sharp finality. "Delivery vehicles don't position themselves for optimal escape routes. Go get Wilson. Now." The authority in Mary's voice was unmistakable, This was not a request from a subordinate, but an order from someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. Chen found herself moving before she had consciously decided to comply. When Wilson arrived with Chun, Mary pointed toward the suspicious vehicle. That van has been in position for 30 minutes. The driver is mapping the facility's vulnerabilities. It represents a clear security breach. Mary, this might just be paranoia, Wilson protested. Maybe he's just lost. If you call your security center and run the license plate, you'll find it's not registered to any legitimate business. Wilson hesitated, but Mary's absolute certainty was compelling. He made the call, and within minutes, his face had gone pale. You were right, he admitted. The vehicle is stolen. Security units are en route. Mary nodded grimly. Too late. We need to act. What should we do? Mary turned to face Wilson, and her entire demeanor shifted. No longer the retiring gardener seeking approval. She now stood with the bearing of someone accustomed to command in crisis situations. Lock down the building immediately. Move all residents to secure interior areas. What's Senator Richards' current location? Wilson stared at Mary as if seeing her for the first time. You know who he is? Answer the question. Where is the senator? 3rd floor, VIP suite. Mary rapidly outlined her tactical assessment. Chun, alert all staff. We're not evacuating. We're securing in place. Wilson, contact the security center and get the ETA on responding units. What about you? Chun asked. I'm going to protect the senator. Wilson stepped forward, clearly struggling with the situation. Mary, you're gardener. This is a job for professional security. Mary turned to face him fully, and for the first time in months, she allowed her carefully maintained cover to drop completely. In her eyes, Wilson saw the steely determination that had been hidden beneath years of quiet service. No, James. I'm retired General Mary Thompson. For 30 years, I managed America's most critical security operations. And right now, I'm the most qualified person in this building to protect Senator Richards. The silence that followed was deafening. Chun and Wilson stared at Mary as if she had transformed before their eyes. General, Wilson managed to stammer. Yes, I was head of strategic operations at the Pentagon. After retirement, I wanted a quiet life. But it seems duty has found me again. Mary moved to an emergency supply cabinet that most people assumed contained only basic first aid supplies. From within, she retrieved equipment that she had placed there months ago, professional-grade communications gear, tactical assessment tools, and other items that had no business being in a retirement home. How was this here? Chen asked, amazed. Old habits, Mary replied, checking the equipment with practiced efficiency. I don't live anywhere without proper security preparations. 3 individuals exited the van, dressed in black, obviously armed, moving with the coordinated precision of trained operatives. Mary studied their deployment pattern and tactical approach with professional interest. Former military training, she assessed aloud, but not current discipline. This is organized crime methodology. What do they want? Wilson asked. They're here to kidnap the senator, probably for ransom or political leverage. Mary issued crisp instructions to Wilson. Tell the responding security units to establish a perimeter around the building, but not to approach. In hostage situations, external intervention often increases risk to the targets. What about you? I'll handle this from inside. Mary moved rapidly toward the 3rd floor, her gait now clearly that of an active military officer rather than a retired gardener. When she reached the VIP suite, she found a single security guard posted at the door, looking nervous but determined. Status report, Mary said crisply. Retired General Mary Thompson, She identified herself. Building security is now my responsibility. The guard immediately straightened, recognizing the voice of command. Ma'am, the senator is inside and has been briefed on the situation. Mary entered the suite to find Senator Richards standing at the window, obviously agitated. When he turned to face her, his expression showed confusion at seeing what appeared to be a maintenance worker. Senator Richards, Mary said formally, "I'm General Thompson. Your security is now my responsibility." Richards studied her carefully. "General, they told me you were a gardener." "They told you very little," Mary replied with a slight smile. "I'm currently the most experienced security professional in this building, and I'm going to keep you safe." Gunfire erupted from the lower floors, indicating that the assault had begun in earnest. The sound was sharp and immediate, echoing through the building's corridors with lethal purpose. "What's happening?" Richard demanded. "A professional team is attempting to reach you," Mary explained with calm authority. "But they've underestimated the opposition." Mary activated her military radio, immediately connecting with the security forces outside. The familiar crackle of tactical communications filled the room. "This is retired General Thompson. I have command of the interior situation. 3-person armed team, currently on the 2nd floor. Primary target is secure on the 3rd floor." "General Thompson?" The responding voice carried obvious surprise. "Please authenticate." "Security code, Delta 77 Alpha. Pentagon Strategic Operations Division." After a brief pause, the voice returned with newfound respect. "Confirmed. General, you have tactical command." Mary issued orders to the security guard. "Maintain corridor security. No one passes this position." Senator Richards watched Mary's transformation with growing amazement. "You really are a general." "Yes, and you're safe." The sounds of combat were growing closer. Mary quickly assessed the suite's defensive possibilities, sight lines, cover positions, escape routes. Within seconds, she had formulated a comprehensive tactical plan. "Open the window," she instructed Richards. "If necessary, we'll use the external fire escape. But we're 3 stories up." "Not a problem for General Thompson," Mary replied with confidence. A soft knock came at the door, too polite, too normal for the current situation. Mary signaled the guard, who immediately readied his weapon. "Identification," the guard called out. "Maintenance crew. Electrical inspection." Mary shook her head. This was clearly false. No legitimate maintenance team would be operating during a security lockdown. She motioned for readiness. "Prepare for contact," she whispered. The door exploded inward with tremendous force. 3 armed figures stormed into the room, but Mary was ready. The combat reflexes she hadn't used in years activated with deadly precision. The first attacker was neutralized by Mary's immediate response, a combination of tactical movement and applied force that left him incapacitated before he could bring his weapon to bear. The second fell to the security guard's accurate fire. The third found himself trapped in a corner by Mary's strategic positioning, his escape routes cut off, his weapon useless. "Drop your weapon," Mary commanded with ice-cold authority. Seeing the absolute determination in Mary's eyes, the attacker slowly lowered his gun to the floor. "Security units, building is clear," Mary reported into her radio. "All hostiles neutralized or captured." The operation was over. Mary turned to Senator Richards, her expression returning to something approaching normalcy. "You're safe now." Richards stared at Mary with undisguised admiration. "That was incredible. How did you do that?" 30 years of training," Mary replied simply. "Even in retirement, some skills don't fade." The following hours brought a flood of security personnel and investigators to the retirement center. Mary provided detailed briefings, coordinated response efforts, and managed the tactical aftermath with the same professional competence she had once brought to Pentagon operations. Chen approached her during a quiet moment. "I still can't believe it. You really were a general?" "Yes," Mary smiled. "But now I'm just Gardener Mary again. And that's how it's going to stay." "But why choose gardening?" Mary held up her pruning shears. "Because flowers are more predictable than people. And in retirement, I want some peace." Wilson joined them, clearly still processing the day's revelations. "Mary," General Thompson, "if you'd like to head up our security department, the compensation would be—" "No," Mary interrupted gently. "I'll continue being Gardener Mary, just maybe a bit more vigilant." That evening, Mary returned to her small apartment. She carefully secured her military equipment, returned her radio to standby mode, and prepared for another day of tending flowers. Tomorrow, she would once again put on her gardening uniform and lose herself in the quiet routine of nurturing growing things. But now everyone at Riverside Retirement Living Center knew who Gardener Mary really was. Retired General Mary Thompson, a powerful spirit hidden beneath still waters. Ready when duty called, invisible when peace was desired. Because true leadership doesn't always require titles or recognition. Sometimes it simply requires being the right person in the right place at the right time, with the courage to act when action is needed. The morning sun would rise again on the retirement center's gardens, and Mary would be there to tend them. But beneath the quiet surface of her carefully maintained routine, the steel of 30 years' service remained unbroken, ready to surface whenever the people she had sworn to protect needed her most. In the end, Mary Thompson had learned that retirement from service was possible, but retirement from duty was not. The oath she had taken decades ago remained in force, and she would honor it whether she wore a general's stars or a gardener's gloves. The still waters of her new life ran deep, and in their depths, the strength of a lifetime's dedication to service remained undiminished.